chinchillas and elves and steam engines.
Oh my!
Hey there, Nomads of Lore. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jonathan.
And together we are Mead and Mischief, your home away from no home.
That's right.
This video, we are going to be doing another tier ranking list, but this one, unlike all the rest of them, is going to be pretty much spoiler free as far as we know, or I don't think we're going to spoil any things.
No.
We're going to be talking about different fantasy subgenres. We're not coming anywhere close, not even remotely, to talk about every single fantasy subgenre. In fact, if you really like this video and it's kind of fun and we give you some good ideas and you have good things to say or whatever else, we may even end up making a part 2 because there's a whole bunch of other fantasy subgenres we're not even talking about. We're going to be ranking them in a tier list and how much we like them. We included, we'll go over our categories in a second. We included a category of we haven't read enough of this subgenre, or we haven't watched enough of this subgenre.
We don't have enough experience.
Yeah, we don't have enough experience. And so, those in particular, we will need your help to let us know if we are going to get in and check out that subgenre. Where should we start? We've got a few examples for each subgenre, some ideas and things to kind of help us and you and all that kind of stuff. We should before we show the tiers, we start with saying, A, this is our opinion. And B, some of our examples could, of course, fit in multiple genres. Pretty much everything can. Subgenres are like that.
As with all subgenres, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about that before. They're going to be, any book is going to go in multiple subgenres.
So let's dive in. So what are our categories?
So we got flipping amazing, dang good, decent, meh, and underread or underwatched.
Yeah, which doesn't. So that is our bottom tier, but that doesn't necessarily mean we hate it.
Bad.
Or it's bad or anything else. We just don't have enough experience with it.
Well, let's get started.
Starting with alternate history.
All right. So alternate
What's our
history.
Example.
Our example is Man in High Castle. Man in High Castle by Philip K. Dick.
One of my favorite authors.
Yeah.
Not one of my favorite of his books, but great Amazon show too.
Yeah. So it's
so this is because honestly, we could probably say underread and underwatched, but I don't personally tend to like this genre. I never liked historical fiction in general.
I don't either.
Man in High Castle is probably my least favorite of the Philip K. Dick books I've read so far. It's lower for me as a genre.
I agree.
I'd say in the meh genre. And meh genre. The meh tier.
The meh genre.
So next is Anthropomorphic Fantasy. So you're talking about things like Watership Down or the Redwall series, talking animals and all that kind of stuff.
We've got lots of Disney shows in this
sure.
genre.
Yeah, absolutely. Where would you say this should go?
As a child, I'd say this would go way up here, but as an adult, I think underread and underwatched for me, even though I've seen a ton of anthropomorphic stuff as far as Disney is concerned. Yeah. But as far as modern books or
I don't know that I read much. I mean, I was super into Redwall when I was kind of in junior high and high school, and Watership Down, of course, is a classic. But and there's some other stuff. Disney and whatever else.
Yeah.
I would honestly right now, like you say, as an adult, I would put this in the decent category. Yeah. But it's Yeah. So it's all right.
Okay, so we got Arthurian fantasy, which of course is King Arthur.
Yeah, variations therein.
And this one we have Pendragon Cycle by Stephen Lawhead.
There are tons of examples of this. Yeah. It's just one of my favorite authors, so I made him put it in here.
Yep.
Again, not one of my favorite book series, even though it's probably one of his most famous.
And probably not one of my favorite fantasy.
It's pretty meh for me. I kind of feel like Arthurian, kind of like colonial studies and whatever. I
personally would put it above alternate history for me, but that's just because I'm not big on.
Maybe we've read the wrong alternate history or the wrong Arthurian fantasy. Let us know what the right things are.
So, Assassin Fantasy.
So this
immediately what came up was Assassin's Creed.
Right, that's the first thing that came to both of our minds. This one goes in the underread, underwatched category for us. We just haven't read it. This genre might be one that both of us, I think, could enjoy.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of look up examples and look at different things. So one of our examples was The Lies of Loch Lamora by
Scott Lynch.
Scott Lynch. That's one we've seen before coming up. I've heard people talking about it.
On lists and stuff. Yeah. And then the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, also on top lists.
I can't tell you whether we like it or not. Again, this is just
reviews you trust.
Absolutely,
you spend a lot of time reading stuff.
So let us know on Assassin Fantasy. This might be a genre that I think we would actually enjoy.
I do think,
it's just not.
If you've got any examples, definitely of any of these, put them down. In the comments,
your favorite examples.
Yeah,
especially.
favorite. Yeah, best examples of these genres.
Yeah. So coming of age fantasy.
All right,
there's
coming
tons
of age.
of things you could.
Yep.
You could put a whole lot. You could put
something this wicked this way comes by Ray Bradbury.
Yeah,
of course, Ray Bradbury.
Yeah,
so good.
You could also put like Hunger Games and stuff into that a little bit, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things in coming of age.
I feel
stories.
like this is on my higher end.
I agree. Like I wouldn't say it's my highest level, but there's. I mean, like a lot of genres, it comes down to the author. The coming of age fantasy has to have some depth. I mean, it can't just be real, just simple and plain Jane, whatever.
Yes, I agree.
So next subgenre that we're ranking is Dying Earth fantasy. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things in this. So we got you got Mad Max and whatever, but we wanted to mention in the books specifically is. The Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, which is, I mean, absolutely content warning, reviews you trust. There's some heavy stuff in there, but it's just really crazy and some really well written. I think this again has to be written well. I would say this is decent, but it depends on why it's dying and what's going on. There's quite a bit of sci-fi stuff, sci-fi fantasy that's in this genre that I do like.
I think this definitely is here, or maybe even here.
Yeah,
for me.
Decent or dang good. Yeah, I agree.
So next we have Fairy Tale Fantasy.
Fairy Tale Fantasy.
And our example is Sleeper and the Spindle, Neil Gaiman, or even Stardust.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Gaiman, kind of known for messing in the
fairy tale fairy tale formula. Yep. Absolutely.
An amazing author, pretty much.
Sure.
Lots of his stuff is amazing. For me, fairy tales are I don't know. I did a lot.
I really like modern retelling. Like
yes, I agree.
Neil Gaiman or Pan's Labyrinth and things like that. I mean, like I really like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Edward Scissorhands. We've talked about that. We have a video on this genre.
So, what are you thinking? Flipping Amazing or High Dang Good?
High Dang Good, or
Okay.
I don't know if I tend to be too much of a jack of all trades. I don't know what's going to be in Flipping Amazing. We're gonna see if we get into. We'll see where we get to, but I don't know.
I think there's only one for me that can even get close.
Yeah, but yeah,
maybe. So let's see. All right, so futuristic.
Yeah. What did we say? Oh, yeah. So we didn't come up with very many books, but things that are more mythic sci-fi or sci-fi fantasy are fit in there, like Star Wars and things of that nature. So
that goes like in the meh, right?
Well, these can be really, really cool. Yeah. There's just so much you can do with futuristic fantasy. I would say it's pretty high.
Futuristic has to be Flipping Amazing or Dang Good for me. It's got to be up here because of Star Wars. Sci-fi is science fiction is my favorite genre. There's
a lot of interesting things there.
And this is a lot of crossover. So.
Yeah, at least Dang Good. Yeah. I agree with that for sure.
So next,
military fantasy.
Poppy War. This is one again that this probably is going to have to go in the underread, underwatch because we haven't read any of these. But we did look up some good information, hopefully for you guys. One that was on Sean's to read list is Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. R.F. Kuang.
Sorry for
butchering that terribly.
Our whiteness.
And then Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which I would love to read.
You read that first one, didn't you?
I did, but I need to finish it.
Read the series.
Mm-hmm. I need to finish it.
So if we're calling the Way of the Stormlight Archive military fantasy, it would be in Flipping Amazing for me.
Oh yeah,
but I think the genre as a whole, I don't know. Of course, I mean, there's one that there are two examples. Is one that would right now is in probably my top books. One of my top in my top 5 for sure. Probably top 3 book series of all time right now. And then another one that's on my 2BR. So it's misleading, maybe, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'm thinking military fantasy, but maybe I'm thinking no. It's definitely an underread, probably.
Yeah.
I mean. A lot of what I'm thinking is probably alternate history fantasy that's in my head as calling it military fantasy. Like, especially when you look at this cover, you look at like Middle Ages and whatever else. So this genre, it probably depends on what military and what magic's involved and what magic systems involved, what characters. So I don't know yet. If we're going on those, then it'd be higher. But myth fantasy. So straight up myths. We're gonna throw Neil Gaiman out there again. American Gods is a modern take on myth fantasy, looking at all kinds of gods. Definitely content warning on that one. Reviews you trust. He also does a awesome that's Norse mythology, which is a great kind of modern telling of those classic myths. This has got to be high for me. I probably at the same as futuristic fantasy. Those two might even be in the top for me.
We may have to move them up here in a second if nothing else gets up there. Let's go ahead and move them. And then we'll go from there.
Do it.
All right. So paranormal fantasy. We have obviously the king of paranormal fantasy.
Stephen King.
Stephen King. Yeah. The Shining. He's done several.
A lot of his stuff.
Stephen King.
The one that's less dark by him is The Green Mile, which also would fit in paranormal. There's all your modern horror stuff. Well, not all. Some of the modern horror things could fit in paranormal fantasy.
Yeah. And I personally,
this would be lower for me.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy scary stuff so much. I have discovered some. If you look at more classic things, there's a few more things that are a little more interesting, and I've become a little more well-rounded on things, and I'm less shy away from things. But generally speaking, this would be lower on my list.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's somewhere in here, somewhere in the mid.
Yeah. So political fantasy. So Game of Thrones fits in that category more or less. There's another example that I knew better. What was it? What did we write down? Or did we not write anything down? So another one that's got a lot of politics in it by Brandon Sanderson. Warbreaker has got, of course, the Stormlight Archive series has got a lot of politics. So this is actually higher for me.
This honestly,
personally,
for me, is up here.
I agree with that actually. I mean, that sounds terrible. You know, when you think about politics and modern politics, and if you're coming to this video as not a fantasy reader, then you may be thinking what. But I really like it. Like in Wheel of Time series, all the different political stuff. There's a lot of interest there. I mean, I like it when it doesn't get too soap opera-y, when it's more intrigue and interest, and I think there's some fun stuff there. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I mean, Game of Thrones.
Still haven't read or watched personally, but I may eventually at least read.
So
we'll see.
Next,
if he ever finishes it.
If I ever, Portal Fantasy would be Alice in Wonderland. Or Alice Through the Looking Glass. Lewis Carroll.
Yeah. The classic.
Yeah.
Going through a portal to another world. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on here. This can be good, really good for me. I mean, this can be. I mean, my one of my easily top fantasy series of all time is still Chronicles of Narnia. Although I put it in almost a different category because of the religious implications, but. This would be really high for me. You seem to be kind of vacillating. I would
somewhere in here for me, second
personally
third tier.
For me, I would put it in the top 1 or 2.
Oh,
but
wow.
But
okay. All right, well, let's put it up here. It's probably
I would say better than Coming of Age. Maybe Fairy Tale depends on how interesting the take is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, Steampunk. I think we get to another.
Steampunk is probably our most underread and underwatched. let me know a good one. And we talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about there was a few movies that we talked about. Hugo, which I do like, Martin Scorsese film. Some other, the Disney one, Atlantis, Lost Empire is probably steampunk-ish. This genre holds very little interest for either one of us. And so, I mean, to me, steampunk is so much more of an aesthetic.
Yeah, it's a visual thing. It's not really.
And so even the aesthetic, I don't care too much about.
I mean, I think even if you have, because I think even if you have things that are old yet new, steam working things that are farther advanced than we currently are, or different, you know what I'm saying, like different technologies that may look old or be in an old technology but are way far advanced. Stuff like that really goes towards sci-fi for me. It
really depends. I don't think the thing about steampunk that really turns me off is the steampunkness is never, for me personally, what is interesting about it. Like, actually, I was going to mention another show as we were making this list, but then I was thinking it's really more of a creature show, which it is. But Sanctuary, which is directed and she stars in it, Amanda Tapping, is one of my, which would definitely have a lot of steampunk elements, a lot. And there are some things that are steampunk that I like, but it's not the genre that I would say.
No, and I like the visuals for sure. They can definitely be interesting, but I'm with you. So sword and sorcery. We came across some older ones, Conan the Barbarian, and which is Robert E. Howard, and He-Man, the old cartoon.
The Power of Grayskull. This has never been a high on my list. Genre. This to me is an old genre. This is like you think of, to me, I always think of like stuff from the 1980s, and it's like some elements from sword and sorcery that you see in other things. Like we were looking at this list and looking at other people's lists and thinking about of what's on there. Like Mistborn came up, and there's some things like in there, you know, the high action, whatever. Yeah. But it's not what when I hear the sword and sorcery, that's not what would come to my mind. And so it's almost because of the rise of subgenres and marketing and all these different things and the rise of the internet. Really,
it's kind of left behind.
It's almost too. Well, I don't know. It's too. Yeah. Anyway,
it's old.
Yeah, the descriptor sword and sorcery fantasy is old, and it's less.
It's
used.
Almost
It's
one thing I read when I was kind of doing research on what these exactly were was that it was lots of sword fighting, and then another one I read that was just talking about it's lots of action
and romance, and you do tend to see that, and it tends to be, you know, when I think of sword and sorcery, I think of like antiquated romance that are like very old, very old school. The hero man has to save the poor helpless princess, and that's, I mean. If I'm going to watch something that's cheesy like that, I'd just as soon watch like a spaghetti western or something that's got the same cheesy elements, but more interesting. So urban fantasy, and this probably has to go in underread and underwatched. I've not seen as much or read as much urban fantasy. I do know is immediate in my head when we were looking at this, immediately Dresden Files pops into my head. That's on my to be read. I'd like to read at least the first one and see what like by Jim Butcher. Is that right?
I think so.
So Dresden Files, I know for a fact is considered to be a great example of urban fantasy. Haven't read it, so reviews you trust.
Yep.
But that's So urban fantasy has just got to go down there. I might enjoy it. Might not. It probably depends on the author. A lot of these do depend on the author. Again, you've seen that. You've seen us vacillate on a lot of these. Our top three do tend to be where we live in fantasy and where we like. Our top, in the top above midway that we enjoy more as adults. But these could probably all shift around if you give us some more good examples, or we continue to read and watch more.
It's kind of one of those things where if you come up with a really good book that that's in that genre. Yeah. Well, that genre may have to move up a couple of notches. But
and as these days, as books are blending
multiple genres,
like we talked about, like with Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, that could fit in several of these. Yeah. And if we're going just on that, it would
Everything
elevate
moves.
all these
Yeah,
things.
everything moves
So,
up. Yeah.
and so.
Well, if you like this format of talking about these things and kind of giving you some ideas of these different examples of these different genres, then definitely give us a thumbs up. Like the video, comment below, give us some examples of either other genres that are not on this list that you love, or in these specific genres, give us your favorite. Maybe especially
those bottom 4
underread.
there that we don't have as much experience with.
Give us a good steampunk one that we can be like, oh yeah, we love steampunk.
Yeah, if you especially steampunk, if you know of an example where the steampunk helps the series, like it's better because it's steampunk.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't think of a single one off the top of my head. So if you know something, let us know. I'd love to know that.
Y'all have a good afternoon, evening, whatever it is.
It's a me.
It's a me, Mario.
Okay.
All right, go for it.